Hey everybody, it's Mike Maher here, and thank you so much for showing up for this training. There is literally 1,000 other things that you could be doing right now. And so the fact that you've come here humbles me, and it means I really, truly want to serve you today. So this is the biggest training that I have ever put together for free. And I'm going to walk you through today the exact steps and process that I've used that have taken me nearly 10 years to learn and probably close to $50,000 worth of investment. And I'm going to give you that roadmap today for free. So if you are looking to increase your energy, I mean, if you're tired and you're exhausted and you're close to burnout, or you're stressed and you're tense and you're on edge, this is the training for you, because we're going to take you through it. And I don't want to waste a second. So let's just get stuck straight in. Okay. So this particular method and process that I've put together, which I'm going to reveal to you for the first time, I've ever revealed this anywhere, so it's the first time. We've taken many clients through this. So we've got Margaret, for example, and she said the exercises that this program gave her, she felt a difference. And this is what's really key. She said the difference lasted. She's seen an improvement in her sleep and her activity. And she also goes on to say she's in a very stressful period of her life, and the exercises that we taught her inside of here made a huge difference. Okay. We also have Becky, a yoga teacher, and she said this has been an incredible journey. And she says she's grown both personally and professionally, and she notices difference in her sleep and her stress levels, and how she interacts with others. So we'll get into some of these a little bit later. We also have Andy, who's a business owner, and he went through this process. He says, look, my sleep's improved hugely, my fitness has improved significantly, and his general well-being is better. So these are just a few of the results that our clients get when they go through this process that I'm about to teach you right now, and I'm super excited to do so. So I spent most of my career in the corporate world, and quite frankly, I hated it. I didn't even know the word for stress and anxiety at the time. I was just in a horrible space a lot. And this is me, I think it's getting 7:15, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, and just unlimited amount of email. So I've been in that position where you've got bosses and you've got people you've got to manage. And quite frankly, I was in a lot of pain. It got really bad. I ended my marriage. I went through a number of different people passing away at the same time. And I just didn't have the tools, which I'm going to share with you today. These tools that I wish I'd had at that moment could have made a huge difference to my life. And so if you're watching this right now, I'm going to give you that roadmap so you know exactly what to do. But I want to just share that. Look, I've been in these positions. I've had the insomnia. I've had the anxiety. I've been close to panic attack on many a times with the sweating and the shaking. And I just didn't know what to do. And I tried so many different things. I tried endless YouTube videos. I went to CBT therapies. I tried medications for my nerves. I did loads of online courses. I've been to Bali to do yoga. And all of these things, they have their place, right? But nothing solved the problems I had until I went through this process. And it was this process that I'm going to share with you in today's training that made all the difference. Okay. So you may have heard of this guy, Dutch Iceman, Mr. Wim Hof. Okay, I got to go on a retreat with him, God, back in 2016, so nearly 10 years ago. I never did anything like this. Went on a retreat with him, got to climb a mountain in my pants at -5 degrees, all this wonderful Instagrammable stuff. But the thing that absolutely changed everything, the thing that made the biggest difference, was the fact that we were in a basement and Wim was getting us to breathe, and I started to breathe in a certain rhythmic pattern. And within a very few short minutes, I burst into tears and I cried for about 20 minutes. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, I've taken no drugs, no alcohol, and yet here I am in a complete state change. And it was directly after that crying I felt some of the deepest calm and peace that I'd ever felt. And I slept like a baby that night. And I thought, well, all that happened through changing what I did with my lungs. And yes, I went there for the cold exposure, and that was amazing. But something happened with the lungs, something happened with the breathing techniques. And I thought, I need to know more about this. And so this just sent me down an absolute rabbit hole. Okay. And I'm going to share a bit about that now. So I have a YouTube channel. You probably found me through that YouTube channel. We're almost at 300,000 followers now, got a beautiful community. podcast on breathing, loads of different things. And after Wim Hof, I started making breathing exercises and sharing them with the community. And that's how our community grew. And I started to venture into different breathing techniques. I really wanted to know how I could feel that calm consistently. Because the truth is, you could do some Wim Hof breathing, you could have a little cry, you can feel calm for a while, but it didn't stick. That was the bit that was really upsetting. I was like, why isn't it sticking? So I read loads of books and I got to, research all these different things. But here's the main bit. This is the bit you're probably waiting for. The turning point for me was this. I tried to do the YouTube videos and I'd spent time. I don't even want to admit or think about how many hours of podcasts I've listened to in the last decade and a bit. It's not going to be a couple. So I tried doing the whole podcasting and YouTubing thing myself in terms of like listening to other people's content. It didn't solve the issue even after Wim Hof. I even bought different courses like the Hof course and it didn't solve the issue. The thing that moved the needle the most for me was coaching and mentorship. And this is one of the biggest things that has been probably the biggest life hack that I've come across, is this ability to take somebody that knows what they're doing and have direct access to them. And so this is the thing that made the biggest change. I'm going to talk about how that affected everything. So I became obsessed, literally obsessed with finding these experts, because the stress, the anxiety, the insomnia, all the things that I felt for all of this time, I just thought, I think I can fix this. And I think there's people on this planet that know how to do it. And so I went and found the guy that held his breath the longest and set the world record. I found the guy that runs one of the slowest ways to breathe schools called the Oxygen Advantage. I actually went with the guy that works with embodiment in Wyoming. I got to fly out to Wyoming and get certified and spend time with this guy that's all about in touch with his feelings, and so many more. Okay. And each time I did this, I grew personally and professionally. And I was able to unlock another key because I was getting to ask these experts specific things about me. Okay. I could use them to then share with my clients. I have a podcast on breathing. Again, some of you might have found me through that. We're on the top podcasts when it comes to understanding how breathwork can affect our nervous system, our mind, our body. We're all over the place. We've done 130-ish episodes now. And we have all sorts of wonderful guests on there, completely free resource. And I got to interview some of the world's top wellness experts. And quite frankly, I have no business other than through this channel in speaking to half of these wonderful human beings that have dedicated their lives to things. There's people that have spent 20 years studying sleep. I actually just interviewed a guy yesterday. He spent 50 years in breathing and psychology, Dr. Peter Litchfield. Under what circumstances normally without my podcast would I have ever got a chance to pick his brains to try and help me and the people that I love around me and my clients? And so through these conversations, I actually got one-on-one coaching. I got to pick the brains of these people and start to unlock what was going on. Now, here's the thing. I would be mad, and I am a little bit mad, but I would be mad if I didn't see patterns. 130 plus podcasts, all these books, all these conversations, these people, to start to unlock some of what was going on here and think, okay, I've been able to do a lot of work on me so I can feel calmer and more relaxed. How can I then help other people? And that's what this training is going to be about today. So I got to pick James Nestor's brain 5 times. I've gone on a retreat with him as well in Costa Rica. This poor guy is sick of me. I've got to hang around and get certified under Dr. Belisa Vranic, who wrote Breathing for Warriors, probably the world's top mechanics expert. We're going to talk about that. I got to speak to my hero, Laird Hamilton, one of the world's top big wave surfers who also teaches breathwork. And I got to hang around with and become friends with Tom Zitas, the human being, the human dolphin, the guy that was able to hold his breath for 10 minutes with a single breath of air. I got to learn his techniques. So I've been on this incredible journey, and now I'm going to give that back to you today through this training. So have you ever asked yourself this question? Why is it some people that we all know lose their car keys and their day is ruined, it's over, and yet there's other people that can just seem to be in a place, a burning building, and they're just super chilled and relaxed? Well, that's what we're gonna talk about today. So this journey, I wish I could say took a week or a couple of days, but the reality is it took me nearly a decade. And as I said at the start of this, probably investing above $50,000 worth of money into learning these techniques, meeting these people and understanding what they've been doing. But today I'm going to share that all with you. Okay. So the thing that I noticed the most about all of this is its resilience, is what it comes down to. It's how big a shield can we have against these things that life throws at us. And so the method and the framework that I've put together helps us increase our shield, and it helps us have more ability to repel the things that we don't want to have come in our lives. Hopefully that sounds good. Just checking in. Hopefully the pace is all good with you so far. We're going to jump into the training in a sec. So I put all of my learnings together into what I call the resilience accelerator. And I'm going to share that with you today, what that looks like. And we'll come back to this a little bit later as well. So I guess the big thing is like, so what? That's always the question. So what? So what if you know all these different things? What was I able to do? Well, quite frankly, for me, I got myself from a position where I was constantly stressed and anxious. I think I couldn't speak in front of crowds. I couldn't speak in front of people. I would get very nervous before work. Quite frankly, I drank way too much alcohol. My sleep was terrible, and I was in a terrible spiral. And I was able to take this process, which I'm about to share with you, and convert my current state into one of calm, relaxation, one of peace, one where I get to run multiple companies now and I get to speak to literally millions of people, one where I get to work one-on-one with clients, my passion, one where I get to go on stages, on retreats, one that I get to be present with my son, where I get to be present with my wife. These are the most important things. Life is going so fast. And so I knew that I needed to make a change. And as I said, it was about a decade, but we got there. And now we've been able to package it up into something which I can teach very, very easily. What's super cool about everything we're talking about here is I've been able to not only impact me, but then I've been able to take countless clients through this process as well, which is really the magical part here, that people can come to me and we do a lot of work over the internet, over Zoom most of the time these days, and I can take people through these processes. I can watch what they do and I can impact how they think and feel in a very, very short period of time, often less than 90 days. We can get radical transformations, and I don't use that word lightly. Okay, a couple of bits here. So we've got one, and he said, like, this process, said the coaching was amazing. My focus has gotten better. My discipline has gotten better. My anxiety and depression has literally gone. And I'm now being aware instead of reacting. And there's a few more things he says in there, but one was one of our students that went through this. I've got Marge here. She sent me this text a couple of days ago because, hi, Mike, I wanted to share a couple of wins. I slept through the entire night. She wasn't. So imagine if you're waking up for a tinkle a couple of times in the night and suddenly you get that deep sleep. It makes a big difference. More of my days spent moving than sitting. Bad nights of sleep now occur a couple of times a month as opposed to several times a week. And she goes on to say a couple of other things as well. We also had Sarah go through this process. Sarah, she said the course is completely bespoke. I think that's important to know, that we have to build these programs around you, and we'll get into that in a little bit as well. My emotional responses have improved and my fitness and endurance have massively improved. Sarah did fantastic in some of the assessments that we did there. So Sarah really did make a huge, huge impact. Okay. So at this point, before we really kick into the training, you might be thinking, well, I've tried stuff like this before and it didn't work. I don't have time to add something else to my routine. Breathwork, yeah, it sounds great, but I don't think it could really fix my issues. I'm not into woo-woo, me neither. A little bit, but not in this program. And it's going to be too expensive. So these are some of the things. So as we go through this program, I'm going to explain to you that these aren't the case, okay? These are evidence-based protocols, things that have worked for me and countless other people, and things that you can implement in your own life. So hopefully that sounds good. We'll get stuck in. So I'm not going to give you the whole spiel about me. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I've been doing this for a long time now. I'm certified in many different disciplines. And I am obsessed with breathing. I have to say, I'm obsessed with teaching people how to breathe properly, how to regulate their nervous systems. I've been on loads of different podcasts and done loads of different things. But ultimately, we'll just get stuck into the training. And if you want to know more about me, I'm sure it won't be hard to find that out. Okay. This training we're about to go through, who's it for? So it's for people that are feeling stressed, people that are tired, people that are sick of scrolling through podcasts and getting information overload, maybe dipping into loads of different YouTube videos, maybe a bit sluggish, any of those things, this is for you. It's not for people that are looking for a quick fix. You know, there isn't a silver bullet. There's not one magical breathing exercise I can give you today that's going to fix all those problems. I wish there was, and I wish we could patent it, but we can't, and there isn't. It's not for people that aren't willing to put in the time. You know, we need to put time in every day. You know, when we prioritize our physical and mental health, it takes time. It takes time and effort. And I've had people before, so I've got a couple of minutes a day, and it's like, this isn't really going to be for you. You know, if we're doing sort of 20, 30 minutes a day, which we can combine with your other routines, that's when we can really start to see some magic happen. And we need people that are open to things. You know, you need to be humble and open and receptive to new ideas, and commitment's huge. So that's who this training's for. Why breath work? Oh my gosh. Could we spend all day just talking about this? We're going to spend a little bit of time. But, you know, it's an immediate shift in how you feel. It doesn't require you to go up a mountain. It doesn't require you to, get beads around your neck and learn all these like fancy sayings and mantras, any of that. You just need to do specific things in a specific order. You can do a lot of them at your desk. You can do them laying on the floor. You know, you don't have to be a yogi to do these things. And they're very simple. That's the beautiful part here. Everything I'm going to teach you is super simple. That's the magic of what we do here. So a couple of takeaways. So this guy, James Nestor, who is sick of me, wrote the book Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art. And he said this. So when we think about breathing, there probably isn't a better quote than this. So he says, no matter what you eat, how much you exercise, how resilient your genes are, how skinny or young or wise you are, none of it will matter unless you're breathing correctly. Tell me there's not a better cause or saying that's going to help you understand that breath work is the most important modality if we're going to make a sustained change in our lives. Okay, big takeaway number 2, Dr. Gerberg. There's a Gerberg and Brown husband and wife team that have been using breath work for about 30 plus years. And Gerberg says your brain is always listening to your lungs. And she gives this wonderful story that says, you know, if you bang your toe against the table and you stub your toe, but then at the same time you start to choke on your sandwich, well, there's a good chance you don't even think about your stubbed toe anymore, because everything in your being is now focused on the fact that you can't breathe, because the direct connection between your lungs and your brain is instant. It's primal. It's there to keep us alive. And so if there's a disruption to our breathing, then our brain's going to notice straight away. Our nervous system's going to notice, and we're going to make changes. We're going to sweat. We're going to panic, all these different things. But it's bi-directional. We can change how we breathe, and in doing so, we can change how we think and feel. So that's a big takeaway. And the GOAT of science podcast, Dr. Andrew Huberman, says this: is life is stressful. You can't always meditate, vacation, or get a massage, but you can breathe anywhere, anytime, which I think is just a beautiful, beautiful quote. And we're going to learn a bit about that in a second as well. So I'll talk about a couple of mistakes people make. So number 1 is just dipping in and out of videos. You can go on YouTube now and type in breathwork. When I started back in 2016, there was not that many breathwork videos. Now, I don't even know what the number is. Hundreds of thousands probably. And problem number 1 is people dip in and out of videos and go, well, that didn't work. Breathwork doesn't work. And they move on to something else, maybe medication, you know, maybe a different modality. So that's a big problem, is just dipping in and out of videos. Number 2 is getting into a bit of a cult or silo. And I use that word a little bit jokingly, but in the breathwork sphere, you'll notice people become very specifically attached to one modality. This is the only way to breathe. And I use Wim as a bit of a joke, because I was a Wim Hof breather for 2 years before I even ventured outside of Wim and started looking at other breathing techniques. So, you know, it's not about Wim. It's just this idea that we can get stuck in one modality. And what I find so beautiful in the research that I've done is we're taking a helicopter view here. We're looking at everything the breath and body has to offer us, and we're taking the best bits, which is what we're going to teach you in here. And number 3 is not having a proven process to follow. So again, it's dipping in and out of videos, it's being stuck in a silo, and it's not really knowing what to do, and what order do I do it, and how long should I do something for, and what if I feel like this, what should I do, and where's your starting position, where are you trying to get to, what's the process in between. That's what I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to do today. Okay, so the silo I mentioned a minute ago, there's so many, right? You know, you could be a Buteyko silo, Wim Hof silo. And what I mean by silo is you do one particular modality. I just do coherence breathing. I just do Qigong. You know, these are all beautiful modalities, but the research, everything that I've seen, so we've got to bring it together. We've got to have the helicopter view, and we've got to come up with a process that's really easy for people to follow. Otherwise, quite frankly, people won't do it. And so what I'm finally able to share with you today, which I've never shared before in this detail like this, is what we would like to just remember as reset. So each of the letters in reset mean part of the training, and it's a proven process that's going to help you energize, move away from burnout, and reclaim your energy. So let us get into the reset method. Here we go. So number one, the R stands for release. What is that? So this is the first step in the transformation. Before we talk about breath or speed or style, we've got to unlock the body's ability to breathe properly. And that's why the first pillar is release. So I'm going to just bring this to life a little bit for you. So we're in the training now. Get your pen and paper ready. Start to make some notes, because I don't know how long we'll leave this recording up for. So make sure you capture all this information. Okay. So what's the opposite of release? Well, I was trying to think about a good character for each of my 5 letters here, and probably the Tin Man, the least flexible character of them all, really stiff, can't really move. Imagine if his lungs were really in that Tin Man chest, how well would they be able to move? And so a wonderful quote from James and Esther was, the greatest indicator of lifespan wasn't genetics, diet, or the amount of daily exercise, as many suspected, it's lung capacity. And lung capacity, one way to think about it is like, how much space have your lungs got to breathe? If I'm super tight, which I was, by the way, or I'm breathing wrong physically, your foundation's off. It's going to be really hard. It's going to help you. It's going to make you feel more stressed, more anxious, less deep sleep. Lots of things are connected to our mechanics, which is why we prioritize release. Dr. Belissa Vranich, who wrote Breathing for Warriors, a wonderful, wonderful guest I've had on the podcast. She believes around 90% of people are breathing incorrectly at the minute, which is staggering. I even spoke to her just a few weeks ago about this exact same thing. 9 out of 10 people can't breathe properly. And we'll get into a little bit today about why that is the case. But ultimately, if you just look at this for a second, what you'll see here is your breathing mechanics system. So what is that? It's the ribs, it's the lungs, it's the diaphragm, it's the chest, it's the shoulders, it's all these different things. And in a 5-year-old or under, they generally do a beautiful job of breathing properly. When they get past 5, when we get to my age and older, we start to lose this beautiful ability to breathe properly. We sit in a school all day, we copy poor role models, we have chronic stress, and all these things are impacting our breathing. There's a beautiful thing Belissa Vranich says, though, which is your body knows how to breathe properly, and it wants to breathe properly. We've just got to remind it how, and that's why release is the first part of what we do. So we're just remembering how to breathe properly. We're trying to open up tight parts of the body. We're using all sorts of different stretch and fascia related areas to do this. Are you a vertical breather, i.e. I take a big breath and I get taller and I use my shoulders, or I'm a horizontal breather. I take a deep breath and I expand down low. And the vertical breathing isn't good. It has a lot of problems. The brain is listening. The brain is picking up your breathing incorrectly. So it can be affecting energy and stress and sleep and all sorts of things. We want to be a horizontal breather. This blew me away when I found this out. No pun intended with the blow me away. But, between the ages of 30 and 80, we lose about 40 to 50% of our lung capacity, our vital capacity. So you think about a person in a care home, wheezing and breathing very, very shallow. That vital capacity is key. As Nesta said at the start of this training point, one of the biggest associations with longevity is lung capacity. So we need to use the right techniques to bring that back. And so I like to describe our lungs as being trapped in a metal birdcage. And what we want to do is we want to find the right stretches and processes so that it's no longer a metal birdcage. You've actually got a lovely soft balloon that your 2 lungs are kept in. So we want to be more soft, more rhythmic, have more space to breathe. And so when it comes to how to release, well, there's so many things we can do here in terms of like stretching and touch and specific breathing exercises. So we have a whole framework that sits under that. But the most important thing to remember here is release the body, breathe easier. Training your breathing muscles makes a real difference. It helps you breathe easier, move better, and feel less exhausted, even during everyday tasks and workouts. So we can boost energy, delay fatigue, and keep you calmer under pressure. And, with all of these things that I'm sharing with you today, there is a ton of evidence that sits around them. So all of these, you can go and find these specific studies and papers, but there's a lot of things that talk about improving breathing mechanics, respiratory muscle training, and how that impacts our overall health and well-being. So we need to release at the start of everything that we do. Okay. Unveiling point number 2. Energize. So the E, the first E in reset, stands for energize. This is where we plug you back into your power. This is where we get you the best sleep you've had in decades. This is how we increase the power, the oxygen to all of your cells in your body. We need to energize. So if you're exhausted, if you're close to burnout, listen up, because this is a really important one. Okay, so the opposite, so we have the Tin Man for release. Edward Norton's character in Fight Club was the character or the enemy that I chose for Energize. This poor guy, if you've seen the film or not seen the film, he hasn't slept, he's got insomnia, he's exhausted. He's so exhausted, he starts to hallucinate other people and become those other characters, spoiler alert. So we don't want to be the Edward Norton character, we want to be full of energy, we want to be full of life. What part of our life is better with less energy? I don't think there's anything. Think about your relationships, think about your career, think about every part of your life. What does it need to be better? It needs energy, it needs good sleep, and it needs proper energy. So let's talk about how that works in this system. So the first thing I'll give you is a quote from one of my favorite books on breathing. And the author, Matt Walker, says, "The shorter your sleep, the shorter your life. The leading cause of disease and death in developed nations, diseases that are crippling healthcare systems, such as heart disease, obesity, dementia, diabetes, and cancers, all have recognized causal links to a lack of sleep." So just let that sink in for a second. You know, the idea of I'll sleep when I'm dead will come sooner for some than it should, because we're not sleeping properly. So, and sleep is its own pandemic. I often say if I wasn't a breath coach, I would be a full-time sleep coach, because I had my own problems with it, and then I've obviously helped a lot of other people as well. So we're going to look at the E. We're going to look at how we can use the breath to energize, and it all starts with our sleep. It all starts with our mouth and our nose and the crippling problems that we have. Even if we mouth breathe just a little bit at night, the problems that's having with us. I'll give you an example. There's something called vasopressin. It's your body's "don't wake me up to pee" hormone, which I find quite funny. So poor breathing equals poor sleep, and poor sleep reduces vasopressin, which means you wake up with a dry mouth, you're dehydrated, you need to pee more, and you feel exhausted. To bring this to life, this beautiful man here is Anders Olsen. He's a CO2 inventor, is probably the best way of putting him. He runs Conscious Breathing. And he and James Nestor taped their mouths for 10 days. And they tested everything. How if I just breathe, they taped their nose for 10 days. And if they just breathe through their mouth, what would that do? And so many impacts happened. You know, blood pressure went up, mood was terrible, they were snoring. Even towards the end, their blood work had changed and they were becoming pre-diabetic, all through the stress of just being mouth breathers. So you think, is there a difference between mouth and nose? There really is. It makes a huge difference. So when we think about energy, it's about getting the best sleep we can. It's about breathing properly to enhance our sleep. Think about recharging your battery. Deep sleep's really important. I'll say again, deep sleep's so important. We need to get as much deep sleep as possible. It's a restorative part of our sleep. And so we look at all different elements. We can look at gadgets and gizmos and breathing techniques. There's a lot of different things in the Energize framework that we dig into with clients to go a lot deeper in this. But ultimately, part of training I'm giving you here today is that we are in a place where we need to focus on getting the best sleep we can. And we need to focus on breathing properly through the nose, because these things are going to help us have more energy, sleep better. And then when it comes to your goals around energy and less stress, it's all linked to energy. Okay. So final bit on energy, your breath is a gateway to real lasting energy. Deep regulated breathing improves your sleep quality and supports your body to ability to recharge at a cellular level. There are study after study on the power and effects of sleep and breathing. Again, no woo-woo here today. We're just looking at the evidence-based ways. So we need to energize by breathing in a certain way to help our body. Let's move on to number 3. The S, I'm happy to reveal, is soothe. What beautiful word. Soothing our nervous system. Baby, right? Rocking that baby, soothing that baby. We need that soothing too. Okay. It's all about helping your body feel safe so it can rest. When you slow your breath, move gently and take quiet moments to tell your nervous system to relax, it's how we shift from stress to calm. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit for you. So we've released, we've energized, let's soothe. So the character I've chose for this was Walter White from a TV show called Breaking Bad. If you haven't seen it, don't worry. Just know that this was a school teacher that got diagnosed with cancer and then starts his own drug business. And you see this transition of this guy that's quite sweet into not a very nice character by the end. what you'll notice if you've seen it is this guy, the stress, the anger, the frustration that he feels, like this guy just needs a big cuddle. He just needs to learn how to self-regulate and soothe his body. I don't think there's one moment in that entire show where this guy's relaxed, and you feel it. You feel it on screen as well. So he's the enemy of soothe. So soothe is important because you recover faster from stress when you're regulated. You'll get better sleep. You can help reduce inflammation. It's about your body feeling safe. That's the big thing here. We've got to feel safe and tap into our body. I heard this quote a couple of weeks ago, and it's just stayed with me. We live in the most overstimulated time in human history. When else has there ever been this much going on? You know, it's just constant barrage of social media and news and jobs and tasks and constant emails, and everything's coming at us all the time, the children. And if we go back just a few generations ago, we had a lot more space, a lot more time, a lot more energy, a lot more being in nature, you know. But we don't have that these days. A lot of artificial life has crept in, and it's sabotaging how we breathe. It's sabotaging our nervous system, sabotaging how we feel. Okay. A quote I came across through the research was deep breathing is our nervous system's love language. And I just absolutely love that. I just find it so beautiful that the way we breathe impacts our nervous system. In fact, there's a lovely lady called Deb Dana. She wrote this book, Polyvagal Theory and Therapy. And she said the job of the nervous system is to ensure we survive in moments of danger and thrive in times of safety. How lovely is that? The problem is we are mostly in a danger state, so we never really get the other part. So it's not about being uber relaxed all the time. It's about bringing balance in, and we use specific breathing techniques, other things to do that. One of the things that we do is shaking, and shaking is very, very evidence-based. There's a lot of shaking and tremor techniques that help us relax. And I'll give you an example of where it's used in the wild. So this video here, you'll see up here, actually, this is an impala escapes the death and shakes off stress. It's an incredible video. The impala just starts to shake after it gets released from the cheetah. And it goes through this entire shaking process, and it kind of takes a breath, and it just walks off, and we've stopped shaking. Okay, we're holding on to all this trauma, all of this stress. Okay, so there's a load of things that we can do here, but one of the most important things is we've got to move our body. Okay, so soothe is the third part of this framework that I wish I'd known 10 years ago. I wish I'd known how to soothe properly, because it makes the biggest difference to help us feel safe. Soothe is about finding balance, not just in your breath, but in your whole system. Through breath and body-based practices, we can help calm an overstimulated nervous system, reduce stress at its root, and shift the body from survival mode into a state of safety and restoration. Study after study, talking about specific breathing techniques, specific rhythms of breathing, specific touch modalities, self-touch, shaking modalities, different things. We've packaged it all up into a process. That's the beautiful thing about Soothe. Okay, let's move on to point number 4, which is embodiment. Being in one's body. Let's break this up. So embodiment means being present in your body rather than being stuck in your mind. It's the process of feeling safe enough to slow down, feel, and become aware of yourself. True change begins here. Awareness. Awareness. It's the first thing I do when I have a client. We become aware of how we feel before we make any changes. We've got to notice how we feel. Okay. So the opposite embodiment, my character I chose here was from a TV show called Dexter, and this is Dexter Morgan. He's a blood spatter analyst, and he just happens to be a serial killer. He went through a traumatic thing, and he often would say in the show he doesn't have any feelings. He pretends he does. And I was very good at disassociation from my feelings for many, many years, until I learned these practices. I got really good at ignoring my own body. And I think that might resonate with you too. And so we've got to find ways to tap in, and because we are not a head, we're not just a head. We are a body. God gave us, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, science, evolution gave us this body, and it has a lot of feelings. It has a lot of data. It has a lot of things it wants to give us. We've got to listen. We've got to find a way to tap in, because it's very easy to use Netflix and drugs and alcohol and sugars and all these different things to disassociate. But when we tap in and we listen to what's going on, it's almost like somebody's knocking on the front door. If we ignore it, it won't go away. The knock just gets louder and louder and louder. So we've got to listen, and then so many magical things happen once we become embodied. Okay. So there's loads of ways to define it. One is saying I'm fine, but you've really got a tight jaw. The other way would be to notice that you've got a tight jaw, tight chest, and you go in, you become aware of it, and you allow it to be. There's so many techniques we can use here. And we want to get out of the head. We don't want to be in the head all the time. We want to be able to listen to our body. It's nice. It's the only time that time doesn't really have a psychological basis to it. What I mean by that is we're constantly thinking about the past and the future, but when we're in the body, we're just in the present moment, and it's beautiful. You might have felt this when you're skiing or rock climbing or jiu-jitsu or doing something physical that is amazing. Time moves differently, and we want to be in that space as much as we can because it is lovely. There's a lovely quote here from Dr. Hawkins. He wrote a big book called Letting Go. And he says, as we become more loving on the inside, healing occurs on the outside. So I'll just let that sink in for a second because I find that really, really beautiful. One of the things Harvard published, which I always reference with clients, is just being aware of one's breath, just being aware of your body. It's already when the magic starts to happen. So simply observing the breath, it says here, can damp down stress and open the door to a more healthy and mindful lifestyle. Simply focus your attention on your breath. So there's evidence here that just by noticing how, not changing it, not changing how we breathe, just noticing how we breathe makes a big difference. Okay. Now, one of the big things that people miss when they take any process is they don't understand the starting position. And this is so critical with all of this. And so the reason this is in here is your sat nav is only as good as it knows where you are and where you're trying to get to. If it doesn't know where you are, it doesn't work. Okay. It might know where it's trying to get you to, but it needs a starting position. And so with all of these different things, we need to assess where we are. And then, so awareness is the way to do that. Tapping in, going, okay, how do I feel right now? What do I notice in my body? Why is it tight there? Oh, why have I got pain here? Oh, where do I notice love in my body? There's so many different things we can do here. Once we've got that initial starting position, any changes we're going to make, we can keep comparing it to where we are. So it's critical to have the embodiment process as part of what you do. Okay. So again, we've got a whole framework of things we do with people, including grounding and heart coherence and all these different things, shaking and tapping and slapping and so many different things. But all you need to really take away from this is we need to have an embodiment process, an embodiment practice. Again, there's plenty of things backing this up. So when you reconnect with your body through breath and awareness, something powerful happens. I'll leave it there. It's a beautiful, beautiful process. And let's move on to the last part, tolerate. Okay, so you've got it. You've got the whole framework now. This is where you build real capacity. It's in your lungs, in your body, in your mind. This is about breath holds. This is about CO2 tolerance. This is about things like Buteyko, oxygen advantage, all this beautiful stuff. Who's the enemy of tolerate? Well, I couldn't think of anybody better than Mr. Burns. So Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, who's the boss of the power plant, if you've not seen it, easily falls down, very weak. I was going to put an image of him with a baseball bat trying to hit somebody. Wasn't necessarily appropriate, but he was so weak he couldn't even lift the baseball bat up. Or he's trying to take a teddy bear from Maggie, the little baby. So we want to have strength, and through that we want to tolerate. We don't want to feel out of breath as we climb stairs. We don't want to be huffing and puffing on our bike or as we walk our child. We don't want to feel tight in the chest and exhausted. We don't want to be mouth breathing at night. We've already spoke about energy. We want to be able to tolerate our breath. We want to be in control of our breath, not the other way around. And so we do that through tolerate. Okay, a couple of quotes for you. This is Stig Severinsen, and he held his breath for 22 minutes. He's set loads of world records, works with special forces in Denmark and all sorts of people. He says, harnessing the power of breathing and breath holding to energize yourself, calm your nervous system, improve your critical thinking, and so much more just by breathing. And he's like, ... or not. Obviously, breath holds he's talking about. Look at him in that amazing picture. Or we've got this guy here, the godfather of slow breathing, Dr. Buteyko. He was actually King Charles's breath coach back in the day. And he says, doing regular breath holds and periods of very little breathing, your blood becomes more effective at distributing oxygen. So your cells will get much more oxygen than before. We need to tolerate the air hunger that we get through slow breathing. And in doing so, we actually make our body and our system more resilient, and we build up a habit to that uncomfortable feeling, that breathlessness feeling. We do that through certain practices. So we want to reduce the feeling of air hunger. We want to be able to breathe softer and lighter. In fact, Patrick McEwen, who certified me in the Oxygen Advantage and wrote the Oxygen Advantage, he has one of these processes he looks at, which is sleep apnea. And he believes if we can get people to breathe lighter and softer, then it's actually much harder to snore at night and have less occurrences potentially of sleep apnea. So there's lots of things associated with making our breath lighter, slower, softer, and being able to tolerate carbon dioxide more. Probably heard the insult before, mouth breather. You know, it's never been truer. I love this quote. Now, this is the opposite of mouth breathing. So there's something called the Apache Freedom Run. They give their children a mouthful of water to promote deep, rhythmic lung breathing. Basically, what they do is they get the kids to run a long distance, and to pass the test, they have to spit the water out. Now, they probably didn't even know the science of nose breathing back in the day, but they got their children to run for long distances, just breathing through the nose. Wonderful, wonderful example of the power of nasal breathing. You don't need to mouth breathe when you're running. Okay, the mouth is a great way to dehydrate us. So you've all done this. You know, we're watching, we're outside, it's cold, and we pretend to smoke or pretend to be a dragon. And when it's cold, we can dump a load of moisture. We don't use the nose though, do we? Because we can't do it properly. We have to use the mouth. So there's so many benefits to being a nasal breather. And part of these tolerate techniques I learned from this guy here. This is Tom Zitas. He was the first guy to set a post 10-minute breath hold. Definitely a dolphin. And he taught me how it's me holding my breath. My hair is a little bit less grey there. And that's me under his supervision and guidance, tripling my breath hold in 3 days. My ability to tolerate went through the roof. I remember getting back into the sauna. I'd get to about 24 minutes in the sauna. I start to panic. I remember getting to like 33 minutes after being with Tom, and I didn't do any sauna training, but my ability to tolerate was so much better because I could breathe. I've been dealing with breath holds all week. And when you are holding your breath, which is not for everybody, by the way, don't do this if you're pregnant or epileptic or got high blood pressure. But when I was holding my breath, you come face to face with your own fears and anxieties because you've got nowhere else to go. There's nobody else to blame. There's nobody else to talk to. It's just you in there. And you're making a choice. How long do I hold my breath for? So there's a lot of power and a lot of learnings that come from breath holding. Never do breath work in water by yourself, I should also say. Always be careful, always be safe, always do it with somebody professional. And we have a whole framework to this, but it really starts with being able to tolerate the feeling of air hunger. Final word on this. So train your body to stay steady under stress by slowing the breath, building tolerance, and switching to nasal breathing for long-term calm and energy. So there you have it. You now have the full framework that I've used. There's my son in the background. He's not tolerating very well, but I've used this framework to get me running 3 companies and still being able to travel and be present and be happy. Not like my son there, who's not very happy, but we got to, use this framework on me. And I get to do all these beautiful things. I get to talk to you now. I get to make content. I get to go and speak in front of stages. And all that's been possible through this system, through how I've been able to do this. And again, Margaret, it changed what she did. It changed how she think and felt. She says, it's now who I am versus something that I do. This is long-term effects. Becky, we spoke about earlier. She just thank you, Mike, for a life-changing experience. Andy, beautiful. Mike's work made a real positive difference to my whole life, which is, so humble when I read these things. Juan was a fantastic student. Says, if I read a bit at the bottom, it says, I wake up focused and not dehydrated. All in all, it was the best experience I've ever had. My breathing changed my life. Thank you, Juan, for that. So this is it. This is the framework. We release, we energize, we soothe, we embody, and we tolerate. That's 130 podcasts and 10 years and $50,000 to put this process together. Now, of course, there's way more depth to it, but that just gives you the overview so you know exactly what to be doing. And that's why a single YouTube video is never, ever going to be able to, solve these problems on their own. We need to look at this entire framework. Okay. So let me ask you a question right now. Was this a good use of your time? Hopefully you've sat down and you've spent 45 minutes watching this and you're thinking, okay, that was a good use. So you have 2 options right now. Option 1, take everything you've learned in this video today and go and try and figure it out by yourself. You can go back to my YouTube channel. We've got 400 videos. I've got 130 podcasts. You can figure it out. Or option 2, what if I personally helped you to implement this? And me, coached you through this step by step, tailored to you and your goals. So that's what we can do here. So let me just talk a little bit about that with you. We call this the resilience accelerator. And this is where I coach you one-on-one through the reset framework. Okay. So we dealing with resilience. We're taking my 10-year journey. We're taking my £50,000 worth of costs and putting all that to one side. Look, I've been here now. I've already taken clients through this. And you need just 3 things here to be successful. You need the right training at the right time in the right order, which is what I'm going to give you. You need coaching from somebody that's been through this. I was exhausted, couldn't sleep properly, anxious and stressed and sucking my stomach in and not embodied at all. And probably the key thing that I became obsessed with is you need accountability. You need somebody that's going to make sure you actually do the work. So when you invest in coaching with me, you get access to me. I'm constantly checking in with you. I can't do the breathing for you, but I can support you and nurture you through the process. Okay, so that's the only 3 things you need to be successful. Okay, so the Resilience Accelerator, we guarantee to make a radical change in 90 days or less. We guarantee that. Okay. And let me just explain this to you. So here's where you are right now. You're at point A and you're trying to get to point B. So it might be that you're stressed, you're confused, you're frustrated, you're exhausted, you're not sleeping properly, and you're trying to follow all these different paths to get here. And quite frankly, what happens is you just give up because it's just too hard. And so you end up back at point A again, and you're not quite sure how to get to point B. And it's really simple. It's mentoring and coaching. That's it. We cut through all of the rubbish and I take you through what to do and how to do it step by step. That's it. That's what we do. It's so simple. So instead of being in the overwhelm of podcasts and YouTube videos and just wasting time, what if I came and I was the guy that trained you through all of this and I just took you through it in less than 90 days? Okay. So I work with coaches and mentors. I've already explained this at the start in case you didn't see me at the very start. I invest heavily in pathways to accelerate my learning. You're only ever going to pay with 2 things, time or money. That's the only way to get any result, really. You can spend 10 years like me trying to figure this out, hopefully not, or we can shortcut this and I can get you really big results in 90 days or less. So here's how it works. You can go alone on YouTube. You can go and buy a video course that's not bespoke to you, which can be fantastic, but they'll never get you the bespoke results. Or you can have somebody like me with a bird's eye view, take you through the map, hold your hand as we go. And that's the benefit of coaching and mentorship. And quite frankly, I don't do the other 2 anymore because they're just too costly. They cost too much time. The amount of time I've wasted just watching random videos. Like we had something with a sink the other day, just on YouTube watching like 15 different videos trying to figure out the answer. In the end, we got the plumber and he did it straight away. And yes, it cost us money, but it saved me the 3 hours that I probably could have spent watching more videos. And it's the same with this. You can spend time on this or you can invest in yourself and get things done quickly. And so look, I wasted so much time and money on YouTube videos and podcasts and therapies and online courses. And I went and traveled the world and did yoga and all these sort of things. Look, there's so much going on here and this has just got to stop. It all stops today. I've got all the training for you. It's in one place at the right time, in the right order. It's the biggest training we've ever done. It's called the Resilience Accelerator. Okay, you get direct access to me. It's me and you working one-on-one. Just like what Juan went through, just like what Kerry went through. So look, I improved his fitness and his training. And I would love for you to be one of our next successful students. So just a little bit about what can happen in the course itself. So it's 90 days of one-on-one coaching with me over Zoom. You can do it anywhere in the world. I'm very flexible on times. You get access to me. So I'm constantly with you at least once a week. It's you and I in a one-on-one position. And we also do group coaching as well. So you get at least 1 session with me a week and you get at least 1 group coaching session. So you've got everything you need to be successful. We also give you access to the Resilience Accelerator Vault, where we've got recordings and courses that are not on YouTube, classes with masterclass experts, lots of value here as well. So you get access to that. And so it's time here to stop wasting months and years trying to figure this out by yourself. I'm going to give you the hand holding you need so you can get this sorted out. Stop running in circles trying to figure this out. Stop jumping from plan to plan. Just find peace and energy and calm through the Resilience Accelerator. So all I'm inviting you to do here is book a call. I want you to have a call with me and see if this is something that's a good fit for you. So you can literally click below and you can book a call. We've only got a few slots open. We're not going to leave this up forever. This is not the sort of program that we can take thousands of students on. This is a program where it's me and you working together. So we only do take a few clients and then we close the doors again. So there's a good chance that if you're seeing this video now and you go away and come back again, it probably won't be up. So if you are interested in having a call, then you can click the link below to do that. Just a couple of things to share. It's not a coaching call, so it's not like a free coaching. We don't work with people that we can't help. There's just no point in me taking you on as a client if I can't help you. So we're going to look at what's going on and see if you're a good fit for the coaching or not. And there is a fee to work with us and it's not cheap. This is not a $50 course. This is bespoke one-on-one coaching using that reset method, taking the 10 years of experience and me working with you directly to help you move through it and get that transformation in 90 days or less. And if I can't help you, I'll point you in the direction of some resources that can. So there's no pressure, there's no obligation. And if you're invited into the Resilience Accelerator, it will change your life. I can guarantee that. Okay, here's just a couple of bits about who this is for and not for. So we need people that are committed. They've got to have the time to put into the health. You've got to be willing to implement what I teach you, and you've got to be all in. You've got to be all in. You can't be, oh, I'm going to do a few minutes of this day and I'm going to do something. You've got to be all in on this. If you're all in on this, you'll get tremendous results. If you are too time poor to put much time into this, if you can't do the hard work, if you're not going to take responsibility and you're not going to take action, this isn't for you. This, quite frankly, isn't for you, and you wouldn't be a good fit for the program. Okay. So who does this work for? So these are just some of the professions we work with. We work with loads of business owners, really, really busy business owners. I've got one session coming up after I finish recording this, actually, and he is very, very busy. He's got such limited time, and we're gonna build the program around him so we can figure out how he's got time in his day and how he can do this. I work with executives and CEOs at the highest levels, parents, busy parents. I've worked with yoga and fitness instructors a lot, and they implement it with their clients after they've taken what we've taught them here. A lot of retired people that have finally got the time to invest in their health, and maybe they haven't prioritized their health as much when they were working. Now they've got time to really embed all this learning. We can do that. And we work with a lot of medical professionals, doctors and nurses in particular. They'll come here, and again, they'll use some of these evidence-based techniques afterwards when they've fixed where they wanted to fix on themselves. They'll then take that and they'll use that on their clients and patients as well, which is so freaking cool. So yeah, if you're any of those, that's who it works well for. So look, here's what you need to do next. Go below, click the link, book a call. It will be on Zoom, and you'll be, we can have a conversation. We can figure out what's going on, ask you some questions. Maybe we'll do some assessments. We'll just figure out what's going on with you, and then we'll talk about if we can potentially help you or not. So we're not going to have this open for too much longer. So again, if you're seeing this is the chance to grab that call. Only book the call if you can show up. Don't book the call if you can't show up. We're not rebooking people, so you get one chance to book a call with us, because we do have a lot of people that apply for this. And it's what we call the Resilience Accelerator. It's the biggest training. I'm super proud of it. What I'm going to do, just to finish off, I'm going to just place a couple of videos down below now for some client testimonials, and maybe that will just convince you to finally go ahead and book that call with us. So I hope you enjoyed that training. I hope you enjoyed the reset method. And if you are in a position where you're thinking you would like my help to go forward and actually solve these problems in less than 90 days, then click the link below, and I look forward to meeting you and having a chat. Thanks so much.
And I am just here to tell you that it has been an incredible journey. I have grown both personally and professionally. I have noticed differences in my sleep, in my stress level, the way I interact with others. So if you are giving it any thoughts, stop thinking about it and just do it. Highly, highly recommend it. I am so excited to continue this journey throughout my life, as I now have the tools that I need. I'm also excited to continue to learn, because I know there's so much more out there as well. So thank you again, Mike, for a life-changing experience.